This is Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.
I shudder thinking how the world can be so cruel. Lend my voice to those who can't. It's time we try, it's time we care, it's time we stand. It starts with a voice.
That tastes so good. Bitty and Beau's coffee tastes so good. Well, welcome to the Special Chronicles podcast. My name is Daniel Smukowski, and I'm the founder of Special Chronicles and a Southern Shriver Global Messenger alum with Special Olympics. Our website, specialchronicles.com, where you can stream our archives of over 750 episodes absolutely for free, and to follow Special Chronicles on social media, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Again, specialchronicles.com. And as I take another sip of the Sundance coffee from Bitty and Beau's Coffee, that's a perfect note to munching. That the reason why I am sipping and enjoying in my radically inclusive mug the Sundance coffee from Bitty and Beau's Coffee, that's because this week on the Special Chronicles podcast, Unified at Work series, season 5, part 3, in celebration of the 8-year anniversary of Bitty and Beau's Coffee, and with my recent visit a month ago to their Savannah location, we are celebrating a human rights movement disguised as a coffee shop, where people with intellectual and developmental disabilities are valued in the workplace. It's a place where diversity isn't just appreciated, it's celebrated. Bitty and Beau's Coffee proudly employs 400 plus individuals with disabilities nationwide. Bitty and Beau's Coffee co-founders Ben and Amy Wright join us for an exclusive interview to talk about their family story before their popular coffee shop company was established. This episode originally aired on March 15th, 2013, and at the time of the airing of this episode, Ben and Amy Wright talk about their song It Starts With a Voice, heard every week as the theme song of this podcast. Please put your virtual hands together as we welcome Ben and Amy Wright on the Special Chronicles podcast on specialchronicles.com. Chronicles podcast is Ben and Amy Wright from It Starts With a Voice. Welcome to the podcast, Jim and Amy.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Daniel. We're happy to be with you today.
Awesome. And let's go ahead and begin with an introduction about yourself, your family, your faith background, and just an overall introduction about yourself.
Okay. Well, Ben and I have been married for almost 20 years, and we live in Wilmington, North Carolina. We have 4 children. Our oldest 2 are 14 and 12, both girls, Lily and Emma Grace, and they are both typically developing. And then we have 2 younger children, Beau, who is 8, and Jane Adeline, that we call Bitty, is 3, and both Beau and Bitty have Down syndrome. We live in, I think I said, we live in Wilmington, North Carolina. We've called this our home for 18 years now.
Close to, yeah.
And I think that's about it.
Awesome. And I first heard about the work that you guys have been doing on the Special Olympics blog, and then on the all-world.org site. And let's first, before we get into to the song that you guys have written, let's take our listeners back to when your 2 youngest children, Beau and Bitty, were born, and when they were first diagnosed with Down syndrome. I read on the Special Olympics blog that you guys have said that you guys were scared. Can you walk us through that experience of when you first found out that your two youngest children were born with Down syndrome?
Yeah, I'll take that one. It's a great question, and I remember when Beau was born, we were we were waiting for the phone call because we knew that his what do they call it, the karyotype, I think, where they number all of the chromosomes, right? Waiting to come back to see if he had trisomy 21 or something different. So we're kind of sitting by the phone waiting. So we knew it was a real possibility. And then we got the phone call that in fact he did have Down syndrome. We cried. I mean, I'm not exactly sure why, other than probably just the relief at this point of knowing one way or the other, and then realizing that he in fact did have Down syndrome. We didn't love him any less. We just knew that things were going to be different.
And I think, if I can interject, I think we were scared because we did not know what Down syndrome was.
No.
And so we were, I think a lot of that, we were overwhelmed with just the unexpected. We just didn't know what his life would be like, and felt like we really need to educate ourselves on Down syndrome. And so I think that's what a lot of the tears came from.
Yeah, I mean, we knew what Down syndrome was, but we didn't have intimate experience with it. But then fast forward, 5 years later, to when Jane Adeline, who we call Biddy, was born. We knew that she too might have Down syndrome, and gosh, in a way, we thought, what a blessing, because Beau had, was just such a fantastic little boy, and the Down syndrome presented its challenges, but our two typically developing daughters present their own challenges too. So it's just a little different realm. But when she was born and the diagnosis came in of Down syndrome for her, we actually cried again, but this time it was tears of joy, because we knew exactly what we were sort of getting into and what we had on our hands. And we also had a buddy for Beau for the rest of his life, which is very special.
Awesome. Now, you guys mentioned that you guys were scared when you first found out that your two youngest children were born with Down syndrome. Why do you believe that you guys, but then also other people may be scared when they were diagnosed, when they find out that their child is diagnosed with Down syndrome? On a few episodes back, I believe it's episode 51, I interviewed a mom who had her youngest son is 10, who has Down syndrome, and she's on the south side of Chicago, and she has an organization called I Am Who I Am, and she also mentioned that the doctors won't that accepting of her son who has Down syndrome. So can you share with us why you believe that back before you found out that your son Beau and other people may be scared of having to try with Down syndrome?
I think, Daniel, growing up, I had very little exposure to people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And so I think I just wasn't equipped when Beau was born. I just didn't have the experience of having spent time with them, of learning how much more alike we were than different. And so that's really, I think, the key to it. I think if I had spent more time with people that had intellectual and developmental disabilities, by the time Beau was born, I would have been, jumping for joy, but I was scared of what I didn't know. Yeah. And I think that's kind of the big problem right now is people just don't know because they haven't had that opportunity, or the opportunity hasn't presented itself. And so that's a big part of our mission is encouraging that kind of acceptance and inclusion so that people aren't scared when when they have these diagnoses.
Awesome. And that's one of the things that I try to bring through this podcast. And what do you believe can be done to have people learn more about people with disabilities, including even at the young age, like your two older children? What do you believe can be done so when they get to be your age and they and if they find out that their a child has Down syndrome, what do you believe can be done now?
I think it might have been Tim Shriver who said this. Correct me if I'm wrong, but typically developing people need to spend time with people with intellectual and developmental delays, or just people who are different in general. And I think when you spend time, one-on-one time, face-to-face, hopefully in person, but even like this on the web, just spending time with people, you realize, like Amy said, that we all have something in common and that we're all human beings. We all just sometimes operate a little bit differently. So I think, that's really what our goal is to get people to try to spend time with each other. Yeah. Instead of, this type of folk over here and this type over here and this over here and birds of a feather flock together, that whole notion. I think the birds need to intermingle a little bit and get to know one another. And what they all realize is, while they may have, some have long feathers, some have short, some have black, some have brown, they're all birds.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome. That's a great analogy to talking about people with disabilities and people who don't have that diagnosis. I also, in preparing for interview time together, that you mentioned about how we all have in common despite differences. Can you maybe share with our listeners, based on your experience with Beau and Biddy, but how are we all in common despite any difference or disability, as I like to describe, because I myself have learning disabilities and a speech disorder. Despite any disability label, as I like to refer to it as, despite any disability label or difference, how are we all in common?
Yeah. Sure. Well, somebody said once, most of what I say I've heard somewhere. It's not unique to me, but treat your children the same by treating them all differently. And I think you have to meet people where they are. I think a lot of times, we can go through life and we look at different people and we sum them up in a half a second, and we don't even try to reach out to that person and speak to that person and communicate with that person right where they are at that point in time, with their challenges or with no challenges. I mean, everybody has challenges. Some are just more visible than others, right? Yeah. But,
well, I would just add that I think the fact that Beau and Biddy have Down syndrome is just one of the things that makes them unique. Beau loves to throw a football. Both of them love to dance and sing. They love music. They love hanging out with friends, just as other kids do. It's just they have one extra chromosome, that's just one of the things that makes them unique. And we share, we all share humanity. We all have dreams and goals, and so do Beau and Biddy. And I think when we can recognize that we were all created individually, uniquely, beautifully, perfectly, we can accept each other a lot easier.
We are going to continue this conversation with Ben and Amy Wright, co-founders of Bitty and Beau's Coffee, in just a moment. I just would like to break in here and let you know that this week on the Special Chronicles podcast, Unified at Work series, season 5, part 3, in celebration of the 8th-year anniversary of Bitty and Beau's Coffee, and with my recent visit a month ago to their Savannah location, we are celebrating a human rights movement disguised as a coffee shop where people with intellectual and developmental disabilities are valued in the workplace. It's a place where diversity isn't just appreciated, it's celebrated. Bitty and Beau's Coffee proudly employs 400 plus individuals with disabilities nationwide. Bitty and Beau's Coffee co-founders Ben and Amy Wright joined us for an exclusive interview to talk about their family story before their popular coffee shop company was established. And now let's return to a conversation with Ben and Amy Wright, co-founders of Bitty and Beau's Coffee.
Awesome. Now, can you share with our listeners about perhaps a story about Beau and Bitty, about how they share or how they bring the joy to your entire family and to the entire world, to every person that they meet. Show any type of story with our listeners.
Well, one of the unique things about Beau and Jane or Bitty, but I'll speak about Beau for a second because he's older and has had more life under his belt. Beau is one of those people who he will treat you with respect and dignity regardless of what you look like, regardless of how you're dressed, regardless of how you smell, regardless of anything. He will treat you first and foremost like a human being. He will want to meet you and talk to you, and he will not judge you. And when people see that, I think it's very powerful because they realize that, here's a 8-year-old little boy with Down syndrome who has the ability to do that. And most of us, I shouldn't speak for everybody, but I don't always have the ability to do that.
Yeah.
And he does. And that is a very powerful testimony to the world when they see him do that every single day. And we learn a lot from that, and our daughters have learned a lot from that, and our friends, both adults and children, I think have learned a lot from that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I definitely believe that's a great gift that people who may look different. We have just a few minutes before first break, but the graphic at least the new graphic for the podcast that you guys probably have seen, or at least it's the one that shows up in iTunes, and is a picture of a friend of mine who's also on the same Special Olympic swim team. She and her family actually recently moved down south, but I have a lot of friends who have Down syndrome and other disabilities, and I don't see my friends as someone who has Down syndrome or a disability. It's more that we're just the same, and you almost, I think, and I'm sure that you guys can agree with this, that you really can't really see that they have Down syndrome when you just spend a lot of time with them, and just you really like, just like I'm sure like your older children or other people who may not have this label, you see them just the same, and I think in just the fact that you don't see them with these features, it's really it's really powerful as well. Would you guys agree with that? And any comments that you want to share on that?
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. One of the experiments that we've done from time to time with our children, especially our typically developing girls, is say to them, imagine when you met someone, your eyes were closed, right? And the only way you could communicate with that person is to speak to that person or to touch that person, touch their arm. And that's kind of the experiment too, is close your eyes and put your hand on anybody's arm. And for the most part, it's going to feel like an arm.
Yeah.
You're not going to say, oh, that's a Down syndrome arm.
Yeah.
Or, that's an arm with somebody with a speech impediment. Or that's an arm with somebody who has cerebral palsy. No, it's an arm. It's a human arm. And that's where you have to start with people, because, while some people are born with their challenges, whether they're chromosomal or, otherwise, some people develop those challenges later in life through, unfortunately, maybe a car accident or a heart attack or a stroke or something, and they have the equivalent sort of challenge at that point in their life. And you have to help your kids think through, say, if that happened to me or your mom or anybody that you know, would you then decide, that person is of no value anymore because they're not up to my standard or what have you? No, you wouldn't do that. You'd say, hey, that's what it is right now. That's where they are, and I'm going to be there with them. So it's
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's way good. Now time to just take a quick break, and today's guest is Ben and Amy Wright from itstartswithavoice.com, and when we come back, we'll talk about their experience with Sport the World Day in the World, and we'll continue this conversation, in particular about their two young children who had Down syndrome. You listen to the Special Chronicles podcast. It's at specialchronicles.com, and we'll be right back.
If you like this show, you might also want to check out The Break with Father Roderick. The Break is an award-winning weekly show about movies, technology, games, health, food, and faith. From The Simpsons to the Sacraments, from technology to theology, The Break features the cool and the classical, the past and the future, the trends, and the tradition. Download the show for free on iTunes or listen at sqpn.com.
And we're back. Today's guest on the Special Chronicles podcast is Ben and Amy Wright from itstartswithavoice.com. And you listen to the Special Chronicles podcast at specialchronicles.com. Now, as I'm sure a lot of our listeners may not know, but if they, when they're especially paying attention to the Sport the World in the World campaign, and they have visited all-world.org, they or even the Special Olympics blog, they probably have seen your family featured on the campaign website, and especially by you sharing with us about your story with your two youngest children. It makes sense that you guys would be involved in this campaign, but let's have you full share with our listeners. How did you hear about the Spread the Word to in the Word campaign?
Sure. Well, surprisingly, we only heard about it about a year ago. I was at a support group meeting with our special guest, who was from the Special Olympics, and she was there specifically to talk about Spread the Word to End the Word. And I just left the meeting feeling empowered, like this was something I wanted to be a part of. And so it's been about a year.
Yeah. She came home that night. I remember it because I was laying in bed waiting for Daniel, and she came home and she told me about this speaker, and literally within 48 hours she had written the song. It starts with a voice and the lyrics, and it was done. And
awesome.
It just sort of flowed right out of her. So it was really a sort of a seminal moment, I think, in her life.
Awesome, and we'll get into more about the song they wrote in just a moment. But just lost my train of thought.
Okay.
But you had mentioned and this might have been in the video that you guys have, but you might have mentioned about how one voice can inspire a change. How do you believe? And I'm sure if our listeners hear the song on iTunes or the music video, they can probably see this for themselves. But can you share with the listeners how can one voice inspire a change?
What's that?
Sure. I believe that if you feel passionate about something and you just start spreading that message, that eventually people will listen. I think we all have it within ourselves to change the world, to change attitudes, to make the world a better place. And I do believe that it can start with one voice and it can spread. You look at some of the great civil rights movements that have happened in our country and our world. It starts with one person who believes things should change.
Yeah.
So yeah. That was an easy lyric to write, because I do believe it can start with one person.
Awesome.
I think too, Daniel, that if we hadn't had our two little ones with Down syndrome, I'm not sure we would. You would have written that song. Maybe you would have, but probably not. So I think sometimes, being able to be authentic with your one voice, it has to be something I think that is close to you and means something to you and resonates with you, and in everything that you do. It's something you think about all the time, and authenticity with a single voice, I think, is very powerful.
Awesome. Yeah, I definitely agree, and as someone who also has a disability, I never would have imagined that I would be getting into podcasting and this form of broadcasting, because a lot of people may not be able to understand someone who may have some challenges, but definitely by having this, just by having this label, I think that it really can show people that anyone, no matter the disability, can still get their voice out there. And you shouldn't, Beau and Biddy, do you believe that they might in
We are going to go and take a short break right here on SpecialChronicles.com. We'll continue our interview with Ben and Amy Wright, co-founders of Biddy and Beau's Coffee, after a quick sponsor break, and we will return in 3 minutes. Support for Special Chronicles comes from listeners like you. As an independent public media podcast, Special Chronicles will always be there for you. Now we're asking you to be there for us. As a nonprofit independent media organization, we can only make programs like Special Chronicles with listener support. Our programs provide weekly, candid, honest, and inspiring conversations about the people with disabilities community that creates awareness, support, and advocacy within each week's episode. Listeners tell us our shows are an enjoyable and necessary podcast for the intellectual and developmental disability community and everyone else who is able to listen to stories about life from a different angle. Please, if you and your family love our weekly podcasts, make a one-time, monthly, or annual gift of thanks today. Support this podcast at specialchronicles.com/give. That's specialchronicles.com/give. Support for Special Chronicles comes from ComEd. Special Chronicles is proud to partner with the ComEd Energy Force Ambassador Program. The Energy Force is the country's first energy efficiency education program designed for and taught by people with disabilities. ComEd is powering lives, and Wary is powering us here at Special Chronicles to keep the lights on and our technology is powered on. As ComEd powers the lives of us, they are literally giving a voice to people with special needs. We thank ComEd for the generous support of our mission at Special Chronicles. Learn more at specialchronicles.com/ComEd. That's specialchronicles.com/ComEd. Support for Special Chronicles comes from United Airlines Bridge Disability Business Resource Group. Special Chronicles is proud to partner with United Airlines and the Bridge BLG. Bridge BLG is committed to being an ally for all employees and customers with disabilities. Bridge helps to create internal awareness to keep accessibility needs in mind and partner with key organizations to empower disability inclusion for employment and travel. Bridge, connecting people of all abilities. Book your travel today on United.com or on the award-winning United app. Learn more on United's commitment to disability inclusion for employment and travel at specialchronicles.com/United. That's specialchronicles.com/United. This week on the Special Chronicles podcast, Unified at Work series, Season 5, Part 3, in celebration of the 8th-year anniversary of Biddy and Beau's Coffee, and with my recent visit a month ago to their Savannah location, we are celebrating a human rights movement disguised as a coffee shop, where people with intellectual and developmental disabilities are valued in the workplace. It's a place where diversity isn't just appreciated, it's celebrated. Biddy and Beau's Coffee proudly employs 400 plus individuals with disabilities nationwide. Biddy and Beau's Coffee co-founders Ben and Amy Wright join us for an exclusive interview. Let's go back. Let's continue to talk with Ben and Amy as they talk about their family story before the popular coffee shop was established, right here on SpecialChronicles.com.
when they get older, that they might produce something, or they might start something to have their voices be out. It's pretty hard to see into the future, but can you share with our listeners some of your thoughts just based on some of the things that they've been doing now?
Sure.
Well, I can tell you one of the things we're definitely going to do, Daniel, is we're going to have them sit and watch all of your podcasts to see how it's done, because you are doing a fantastic job and are a tremendously good role model for them, and shows them that that really you can do just about anything you put your mind to, and that clearly is what you're doing here. So that's one thing we're going to do, is let them watch your work, what you've already done and what you're currently doing and what you'll do in the future. So that's one thing, but go ahead.
I think too, just encouraging them to be self-advocates, because they definitely will have a lot to say in this world. Beau already does. Beau has joined Ben on stage to actually sing It Starts With a Voice. He did that once with Best Buddies, and sometimes I think that's the most powerful thing to see, somebody who's really advocating for themselves and saying, look what I can do. Look, that's what I love about the Special Olympics, and look what I just accomplished, and really lets them use their voice to say, I'm awesome.
Awesome. And going back just briefly to how you found out about the Spread the Word to In the Word campaign. You had mentioned that you went to a support group to find out where you heard a speaker. I'm assuming that the speaker was from Special Olympics, just based on reading some information from them. But can you share with the listeners about this support group? What was this support group for, and why were you there?
Yes, well, it's a group called the Exceptional Friends Network, and so we're just a bunch of family and friends who have someone in our lives that we love that has special needs, and we get together once a month and share ideas and stories and encourage each other. We just happened to have a guest speaker that night from Special Olympics, and she told us about the Spread the Word to End the Word campaign. And I had become a parent of a special needs child almost 9 or 8 years earlier, and began advocating at that time for them to be accepted and included. But it really wasn't until I heard about Spread the Word to End the Word that I felt like I was equipped to really promote this message. There was something about this campaign that just struck a chord with me, and it gave me a platform to stand on, and it gave me a message to start a conversation with. That night she brought bracelets, and I put on my Spread the Word to End the Word bracelet, and I really feel like I found my calling in life. I think we have, it's been a very exciting chapter in our lives to be a part of this.
Awesome. And I'm sure you guys know, in both a lot of places of work, in the community, but then also in a lot of schools, both universities, colleges, but then also high schools, middle schools, elementary schools, also all having events around this. And if our listeners listen back to last week's podcast, which was episode 54, I believe, I shared a couple reports from a couple schools here in Illinois, but is at your older daughter's schools, have they been having any events or any events or campaigns around the Spread the Word to In the Word campaign, and what's been their experience, especially because they have a younger brother and sister who is impacted by the hurtful use of the R-word.
Right. Well, interestingly, our older daughters have been homeschooled this year, so we spent the Spread the Word to End the Word Day of Awareness visiting some local schools here and being a part of their festivities. And I'll tell you, this community we live in has really embraced this campaign, and it was exciting to go to a high school cafeteria at lunchtime and stand there and watch hundreds of kids come and sign the pledge. Another high school had T-shirts printed up for the day to help promote the message. One of my daughter's friends made her own personal YouTube video to help spread the message. it has been just an awesome thing to see within our community, and then just watching on social media what's happening all over the country. It's a really cool, exciting thing. Yeah.
Awesome. And did your children, Beau or Biddy, come along with you guys? I saw in the video, Ben, when you dropped your son Beau off at school. So I'm sure he was at school, but did you bring them along, or even if it wasn't on the March 6th Awareness Day at any other events in your community, and can you share with us about what that experience has been like?
Yeah, we try to bring them to everything that we can, but at the same time, what we found is we always want to do what we feel is in their best interests all the time. So while we want them with us all the time, especially at events like that, because I think it's good for people to see us out as a family and that we're really like any other family. There are times when Beau and Biddy are overwhelmed, and either through all of the people, all of the noise, all of the activity, it's a different place, it's a strange place, and we know them well enough now to know that, hey, you know what, this event is not going to be a good event to take him or her to. Or if we do, it's for a short amount of time, or we try to have 2 or 3 extra people to sort of, intercept them if they wear out or just decide that they have had enough,
On that same note, though, the way we started our day on Wednesday was at a high school where we went, and I started by speaking to the student body about Spread the Word to End the Word, and then Ben followed with the song. And as I stood there and spoke, Biddy stood there holding my hand. She introduced herself on the microphone, and then she just stood there and watched me while I spoke patiently. Yeah. So we do involve them as much as we can. And like Ben said, we just try to plug ourselves into the community as much as we can with them, and hopefully people see them and
I think as they get older, it's going to become easier and easier to really have them with us with every single thing. But right now Biddy is almost 4, and she doesn't really speak. She babbles. She thinks she's talking. She doesn't really understand a whole lot of what she says. But as her speech develops and as Beau matures, it's really going to be neat to have them there all the time with everything, and let them speak on behalf of, for themselves, and because we're always tending to speak for them at this point. But it's gonna be neat when they can really represent themselves.
Yeah. I'm sure it will be, and I'm looking forward to following your story. You had mentioned about how you came home from the support group meeting, and how the words from the song, it starts with a voice, just, I guess you could say, flowed out of you. Can you share with us more about some of the backstory to how did the words come to you? What was that process like about how it got started to write the song? It starts with a voice.
I wish I could say, Daniel. I am not exactly sure how it all came to me, but came home, I started driving home from that meeting, and it started flowing in my brain. I really think it was divine intervention. And I got home and I put on my pajamas and bathrobe, and I just stayed up writing, and had a song, 2 days later. It really, I can't explain exactly how.
She's not a trained songwriter. Now, she has written about 30 tunes and with lyrics, like children's songs, but that was like 10 or 12 years ago. So this isn't something she does all the time, but when she sort of opens that Pandora's box, things come out, and this time it just came out
flowed.
quickly. Yeah,
I don't know.
She,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I last week I downloaded the song from iTunes, and I watched the video and I've listened to the song. a few times, and it's been really inspiring to hear the song, and it's neat how you can.
We are going to continue this conversation with Ben and Amy Wright after a quick moment as I break in here to let you know that this week on the Special Chronicles podcast, Unified at Work series, Season 5, Part 3, in celebration of the 8-year anniversary of Biddy and Beau's Coffee, and with my recent visit a month ago to their Savannah location, we are celebrating a human rights movement disguised as a coffee shop where people with intellectual and developmental disabilities are valued in the workplace. It's a place where diversity isn't just appreciated, it's celebrated. Biddy and Beau's Coffee proudly employs 400 plus individuals with disabilities nationwide. Let's return now to our Special Chronicles inclusive interview with Biddy and Beau's Coffee co-founders Ben and Amy Wright as we talk about their family story before the popular coffee shop company was established. Right here on SpecialChronicles.com.
Related to both people like your two youngest children who have Down syndrome, but you can also relate to anyone, or even anyone who has a disability label. You now in the music video, and I'll include links to both the song on iTunes and to the video in the show notes at SpecialChronicles.com. And all of our listeners, just do a search on SpecialChronicles.com for It's Us with a Voice. You should be able to find a podcast. And you had a benefit concert, and the one in the music video, and can you walk us through briefly about this experience? Where was it? When I saw it, and at the very end, when the camera panned the entire audience, it showed a theater, and it kind of, the theater reminded me of here in Chicago. There's the Auditorium Theater, which is at Roosevelt University, where I just graduated from this past December.
Congratulations.
Thanks. And so, can you walk us through about that experience of the benefit concert, and how did that all come about?
Well, I'll let Amy walk you through that piece, but I'll tell you about the theater just quickly. If anybody's ever been to the Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C., the story is the same architect who designed that theater designed the theater here in Wilmington where we did the benefit concert. It's called Thalian Hall. Just a beautiful old theater. It's been fully restored, and just a wonderful, intimate venue. So that's where we did it. But as far as how it came about, I'll let Amy tell you.
Well, we thought after writing the song and recording it, we just thought, wouldn't it be cool if we could find a way to use this song to raise money for the Special Olympics, and specifically for the campaign, and thought, well, gosh, why don't we have a concert and we'll debut the song there. Ben and I both have backgrounds in, we both were fortunate enough to work on Broadway at one time, and so we thought we'll use our musical gifts and we'll put together a concert of Broadway music, and we'll debut the song at the end of the concert, and we will take all the proceeds from the concert and give them over to the Special Olympics and help them with their campaign. And so that's how it was born. We just decided it was a neat way to debut the song and to make a difference at the same time.
Awesome. And you mentioned how the funds went to benefit Special Olympics. Do you guys have any experience in Special Olympics? Beau and Biddy, I'm sure that, well, as you guys know, as an athlete, we have to be at least 8 years old. But then there's the young athletes program that just started. Are they involved in Special Olympics? And how did you guys get involved in the organization, and in I guess you could say in the Special Olympics a movement?
Right. Well, Beau actually is going to the games in another month, or about a month or so. His whole class from school will go participate in the day of games, and so he's looking forward to that, training already. But as far as our involvement with the Special Olympics goes, I think really
we're connected to Special Olympics through the Spread the Word to End the Word campaign, and the fact that Special Olympics and Best Buddies International sort of underpin that campaign.
Yeah.
But beyond that, we hadn't really had any experience with Special Olympics or Best Buddies. It was really Amy, the Spread the Word to End the Word campaign, resonating with her, and then her sort of drilling down into that and seeing who really sponsors that. And it was Special Olympics and Best Buddies.
Awesome. Yeah, it's definitely been great to be involved in Special Olympics. I actually got involved when I started high school in about 2004, 2005, and one of my special ed teachers, who was my case manager, she actually told me about our local Special Olympics, and so it's been really a great part of my life, because growing up in school, I didn't talk a lot and really didn't have a lot of friends. So it definitely helped a lot, and I'm sure as Beau and Biddy get involved more in Special Olympics, you'll continue to see the benefits.
Yes.
Of the organization. Let's now talk about the music video. Can you describe for our listeners about what was the filming like? It looked like in the video that they that they followed you guys around a lot, and can you share with our listeners about what that experience was like? Because I'm sure it's not every day that you guys have a camera that's documenting your entire family. So can you share with our listeners about that was like? Because by watching the video, you really see a lot of joyful and really really great moments of your entire family, but especially Beau and Biddy.
Yeah, and I'm glad to hear you say that, Daniel, because that really was the purpose, I think, of doing the video on top of the song, so to speak, was really to give people a view into our family life. Now, to be clear, it's not all butterflies and lollipops every day. We're all reading books and baking and wrestling on the floor. Now, that does happen a lot, but it's not every single day.
Yeah.
Magic of movies, right? You can put together the shots you want. But the point was to show people that, families that have people in their lives with special needs are still families, and they still do things that families do, and they still have fun, and it's okay to have people it's more than okay to have people in your life and in your family with special needs. And if you get a diagnosis of a special need, Down syndrome, whatever it is, before the baby's born, don't be so afraid. Don't be so afraid. And that was really the purpose of the video, is to say to people, look, it's all part of life, and you have to embrace it.
Awesome. And how did you feel that this video has helped the Special Olympics, Best Buddies, Spread the Word to End the Word campaign? How do you feel that the video has helped the campaign? Because right at the beginning, when our listeners watch the video, they see both the two of you, but then they see your two older children as well in a black and white sequence, kind of like a PSA, I guess you could say, and that it flows right into the song. How do you feel that this has helped the overall movement of the Spread the Word in the Word campaign.
Sure.
Well, I think that as you called it, kind of a PSA moment at the beginning of the video. It's very direct and it doesn't mince words. And I think some people might recoil at that a little bit, because it's a little bit direct and in your face. But I think at the same time, there's so much tiptoeing around how people interact or think about or frame people with special needs that, if you feel a certain way about it, and provided you're not being a total jerk about how you communicate it, I think it's okay to tell people that, what you believe, and that it's not okay to call people names, basically, so I think that the song and the video, pictures are so powerful, as we all know. Just if we were talking to you on the phone, it would be wonderful, but to be able to see your face and connect your voice with your face, that's so powerful,
It definitely is.
And then you put music on top of that, and it grabs at more of the human spirit and human nature than just one way of communication. So the video has really, we've just had a lot of people just sort of say that it open their eyes or help them reframe the way they think about people with special needs, or
Exactly.
So
awesome.
hopefully it's had a powerful impact. We hope it has. It's meant a lot to us, and if we can get one person out there to just change the way that they think about people with special needs, to take them out of a negative light into a positive, bright light, then it was worth all the time and all the energy and all the resources.
Awesome, and as we've been seeing a lot of positive reactions to this campaign, and positive reactions to people who have this disability label. Have you guys heard any negative reactions? Like I haven't really as a journalist, I haven't really heard that much negative, but every once in a while you may hear some people that they may have who may have a negative tone. Have you guys heard anybody who's been against the Spread the Word in the world, or what's been that experience like?
I have not run into anybody against it. I will say once or twice somebody has reacted with it's just a word, which I actually love it when people say that, because it allows me to launch into why it's so much more than a word.
Yeah.
And so I would say, though, by and large, it has been just everything we have seen has been a very positive, lots of positive feedback.
Yeah, I don't think we have either. I mean, there have been some pretty public people in the media who have thrown the R word around that you're probably aware of, that some have been apologetic about it and some haven't. And, it seems like the ones who aren't, it becomes an issue for them of, you're trying to be the word police and you're trying to restrict my rights of free speech and all those sorts of things. And to me, personally, that's not really what the campaign is about. The campaign is, when you say don't use the R word, it's really a stepping off point to say, yeah, that's what we're going to hit you with, because it makes somebody say, well, what do you mean I can't say that word? Well, you can't say it because this is what I want you to think about.
Yeah.
That's really, because you can't control what people say, but you can get people to stop and think about how they think about people who they throw that word, when they throw that word around. So
yeah, absolutely. And how would you guys sum up your goal for this music video and the song itself with the voice? If you were to come up with, let's say, as I'm sure you guys know, on Twitter, it's 140 characters. In about 140 characters tweet, how would you sum up, if you were to tweet this in 140 characters, how would you sum up your goal for this music video and song? It starts with the voice.
Ooh, that's a tough question. What do you think?
You want to say?
You try.
140 characters. I'm not even sure how many words that is. Let's see. I think the goal for this song and music video is to get people to stop and think about people with special needs, and at the very least get them to treat those people with respect.
Yeah.
Because I think at a minimum, if you can treat people with respect, you've done a lot. You don't have to love everybody. You don't have to. I've gone on 140 characters now.
That's right.
Anyway,
That's fine.
I think it's about getting people to show people with special needs, show them the respect that they deserve as human beings.
Yeah.
We are going to continue the final segment of our conversation with Ben and Amy Wright after a quick break in here, as I let you know that this week on the Special Chronicles podcast, Unified at Work series, season 5, part 3, in celebration of the 8-year anniversary of Biddy and Beau's Coffee, and with my recent visit a month ago to their Savannah location, we are celebrating the human rights movement disguised as a coffee shop where people with intellectual and developmental disabilities are valued in the workplace. It's a place where diversity isn't just appreciated, it's celebrated. Biddy and Beau's Coffee proudly employs 400 plus individuals with disabilities nationwide. And now let's return to our Special Chronicles conversation with Biddy and Beau's Coffee co-founders, Ben and Amy Wright, as we talk about their family story before their popular coffee shop was established right here on SpecialChronicles.com.
Absolutely. And before we come to a close for interview time together, and by the way, if those of you just tuning in, today's guests are Ben and Amy Wright from itstartswithavoice.com. And you mentioned, I believe it was either in the video or in the song, it could be both, and we mentioned this earlier in our time together, inspire a change. And it seems how that's important, another important takeaway from the whole mission of this song, that our listeners can really join in with you, your family, myself, and Special Olympics, and this whole Spread the Word to In the World campaign, that we can really inspire a change. How do you believe that you and your family, through this song and music video, are helping to inspire a change in our global society?
That's a great question, Daniel, and I think I'm speaking for Amy. I think one of our greatest wishes is that when, and this is pretty specific,
yeah,
but I think you'll understand why. When going forward, when people get the diagnosis of Down syndrome of their child, even before the child's born, while the child's still in the womb, that instead of that being a negative thing, that'll be a positive thing. Because there's no reason why it needs to be a negative thing.
No.
None at all. And yet it seems like the perception out there is that that's a negative thing, and you do not want a child with Down syndrome. If we can change the way the world thinks about that, that would be incredible. That would be a dream come true for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if you guys saw, I believe it was last month, there was a story on Good Morning America where they had a couple that found out the gender of the child, and they said that they were happy that their child wasn't diagnosed with Down syndrome. Did you guys get a chance to see this story? And it's I didn't like how Good Morning America, how they, and I'm sure there are a lot of people that watch this show on a major network, how that's the way that they spin this story.
Right.
What can you share with our listeners briefly about your comments on that story?
Yeah, that really saddened us too, Daniel. It was the good news and the bad news. And, I think it goes back to just helping change people's attitudes, people's perceptions of people who have intellectual and developmental disabilities, and so that it's not framed in this is a bad thing as opposed to a good thing. This is a life. This is somebody that was created perfectly, and they're a little bit different than you, but that's okay. I'm a little bit different from Ben. Neither one of us have any less value, and neither do our children. So yeah, those, I think if we can just, and it's happening, perceptions, attitudes are changing, but it's got to grow, it's got to continue. And so when we're watching something like that, I hope 10 years from now, it'll be the good news and the good news. You're going to have a baby girl, and this baby girl has Down syndrome. And that's great news. And that's the first thing I say to somebody when I've heard they have a baby, they're expecting a baby with a disability, or that they have just had one. I say, congratulations. That is awesome. So I think that it takes time, it takes some momentum building, and the momentum is building. I feel it, and I think that day will come. I pray it will.
Yeah, the perception has to change that any type of disability, physical, intellectual, whatever it is, the perception has to change that equals bad, that equals negative, that equals less value, because it doesn't. It doesn't, and yet that is just heaped upon people, just heaped upon them. You're always screening for something. You're always trying to see, if something is amiss, type thing. And the fact of the matter is, it seems to me kind of it's really off-putting to me, because here's this unborn child who you know it ahead of time. You feel like you can do something about it. And yet if that child was in a car accident when they were 8 years old, and now all of a sudden is in a wheelchair or can't speak or whatever the case is, what are you going to do with the child now?
Yeah.
Right? There's a real disconnect there, and I don't think people think through it logically, and I think it's ugly, and it needs to change, and that's what we're trying to do.
Awesome. And you guys are doing a great job, and we're near the bottom of the hour of our interview time together. And can you share with our listeners how they can find out more information about you, your song, and on website, Facebook, Twitter, any social media links?
Sure. Thanks for asking. Started a blog about a year ago, and it startswithavoice.com. Share stories, experiences, pictures, what's going on in our lives. It's linked to our Facebook page. You can also look there for It Starts With a Voice.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that covers it. Come join us. We'd love for you to be a part of our journey. Yeah.
Awesome. And I'll include links in the show notes at specialchronicles.com. If our listeners look for the episode, it will probably be episode 55 for this week. And if our listeners look in the show notes, I'll put links to your blog and to the music video and to the song in iTunes, so our listeners can find out more information. We have just about less than a minute left in our interview time together. Can you share with our listeners some final thoughts, just to sum up our time together that you would like to share with the listeners?
Sure. I'd like to sort of direct it back at you, Daniel, and just say how I know I'm speaking for Amy here, just the time we've spent with you today, the fact that you're doing what you're doing and using the internet and leveraging it in such a powerful and positive way is what will help us attain our goal and our dream of getting people's perceptions and the way they frame people with special needs and different intellectual and developmental disabilities differently. And we just encourage you to keep on doing what you're doing, because it's good work, it's powerful work, it's well done, and you are the tip of the spear. And thank you for being that.
Thanks.
For people like us.
Thanks. It's been really gratifying to hear a lot of feedback from listeners, and I have some exciting things that are coming in the works that I'll announce soon. But we have some big plans for the future. So I'd like to thank you once again for taking the time to come on the podcast, and I look forward to talking with you guys again soon, and maybe even as in the near future as a travel mode for some live broadcasts and some speaking engagements and stuff. Maybe in the future get a chance to meeting you guys.
We love that.
You're welcome. Come down anytime.
Awesome. Thanks. So look forward to talking with you guys again soon, and see you online. So keep listening to the Special Chronicles podcast at specialchronicles.com.
Well, I hope you have enjoyed the conversation with Ben and Amy Wright right here on specialchronicles.com. You've been listening to this week on the Special Chronicles podcast, our Unified Book Series, Season 5, Part 3, where we celebrated the 8-year anniversary of Biddy and Beau's Coffee. Combined with my recent visit a month ago to their Savannah location, we are celebrating a human rights movement disguised as a coffee shop where people with intellectual and developmental disabilities are valued in the workplace. It's a place where diversity isn't just appreciated, it is celebrated. Biddy and Beau's Coffee proudly employs 400 plus individuals with disabilities nationwide. I hope you have enjoyed the past hour of our Special Chronicles conversation with Biddy and Beau's Coffee co-founders, Ben and Amy Wright, as we talked about their family story before the popular coffee shop company was established. Once again, if you would like to learn more, visit, shop, and follow BiddyandBowlsCoffee.com. That is BiddyandBowlsCoffee.com. A few reminders as we wrap up this episode. It is a little bit over of an hour of an episode, but it was just so excellent. Listening back to the past hour, I am reminded just how powerful it was to hear from Ben and Amy Wright as they shared their story before Biddy and Beau's Coffee. A few reminders as we conclude this episode of the Special Chronicles podcast. I'd like to have you support our Special Chronicles, or I invite you to join us at Special Chronicles and support our Special Chronicles 2024 giving campaign. Our goal this year is to raise $15,000 so we can operate our studio and continue our mission of giving respect and voice to people with special needs. Visit specialchronicles.com/give, or just visit specialchronicles.com and click on Give Now to make a one-time or monthly donation and support this podcast. You can also show your support of Special Chronicles by visiting our merchandise store. Our Special Chronicles store is managed by Outshine Labels. If you're watching the video edition of this episode, I am wearing our Disabled Voices Matter hoodie. We have t-shirts, hoodies, like I'm wearing right now, and much more. Shop our store knowing that 60% of the profits, support us. Visit our merchandise store at specialchronicles.com/shop. Once again, that's specialchronicles.com and click on shop. And remember to keep following the Special Chronicles podcast, or tap that follow button on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts as new episodes drop weekly. Don't miss our original content that will help you make impactful and inclusive connections in your life through our podcast. And remember to visit our website, specialchronicles.com, where you can stream archives of over 700 episodes absolutely for free. Have a great week. We'll be back next week and every Monday right here on the Special Chronicles podcast on specialchronicles.com. And until then, talk to you next week. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Special Chronicles podcast. Our podcast was produced by Daniel Smukowski on the Special Chronicles Network. Follow Special Chronicles on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Subscribe, rate, and review Special Chronicles on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Our website, specialchronicles.com, where you can stream our archives of over 500 episodes absolutely for free. Also, there's a list of our favorites, original series, award-winning columns, and blogs. And sign up for our newsletter to receive exclusive bonus content delivered to your inbox. Again, specialchronicles.com. Special Chronicles is hosted by Podbean Podcast Hosting. Our live streams are powered by StreamYard. Thanks, as always, to our business manager, Adam Smukowski, who always encourages us to never give up. I'm Daniel Smukowski, back next week with more stories.
Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.